Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes, and this is a daily brief. It is Wednesday, May 15th. So I saw this yesterday. Ukrainian defense has asked everyone to respect OPSEC and chill out for the next few days. Please don't post any updates of front lines for the next 72 hours. And of course, that's talking about around Kharkiv, around Sumy. So I'm going to try to be respectful of that, but that doesn't mean that there's not a lot. I mean, a lot to cover. Okay, so as we're moving forward, let's look at this. 1,510 Russians off the battlefield. Still an enormously high figure. It was the highest that I've seen was to 17 plus Russians off the battlefield just 2 or 3 days ago, and that was the high watermark for the entire war. 11 tanks, 48 armored combat vehicles, 23 artillery, 48 vehicles and fuel tanks. Now, people will periodically ask me, do you believe those numbers? Well, I don't believe it's 1510 exactly, but it's probably a lot higher than what it was just a couple weeks ago. And what it was a couple of weeks ago when it was dipping down into 800, 900, something along those lines, probably a lot lower than where it is now. So what I'm looking at is the trend lines, not as much like is it exactly that number? It's probably really close. Okay. Andrew Perpetua identified the losses of the Russians and the Ukrainians. It's about 1.5 to 1. Not a great ratio, but it's been hot on a battlefield. Okay, Russian airstrikes on residential area in Kharkiv injured 21 people, including 3 children. It's just a picture of what it looks like. I'm not going to talk about the battlefield maps or anything like that. This is actually okay by me because this is my core strength anyway. Here is a picture of a little video that I'm going to stop, but you'll see that there is a multiple launch rocket system here in a crowded area with cars just coming out on the road and shooting off its rockets, which is genius, but it's also a war crime because you're using civilians as a human shield. And if the Ukrainians were to fire back and hit just these innocent civilians on the road, I mean, it would just be all over the newspaper. So that's the kind of evil that you're dealing with. Ukrainian troops pull out of some areas and Zelenskyy postpones foreign trips amid Russian offensive. He really is focusing on what's going on in Kharkiv and Sumy and other regions. And yeah, it's probably a good move to not go on these foreign trips right now. Daily Fella talked about the purge of all these high-ranking Russian, particularly military, that are being reassigned or demoted or moved or that sort of thing. I'm going to particularly miss this guy. He was the Russian Ministry of Defense spokesperson, always a colorful figure, making up all kinds of things. Like he had a full-time job making things up. In other news, and this is bad news, it looks like Sergei Surovikin is back. He was exiled after the Prigozhin, whatever that was, Freedom March, coup attempt, whatever happened there with Prigozhin. I'm still not sure how to classify that, but apparently Surovikin knew and was maybe trying to talk Prigozhin out of it, but because he knew stuff, he was then exiled to, I think, to Africa, and now he's back. Okay, it allows us to do our job. Ukrainian artillery team is buoyed by fresh ammunition after costly wait on the front line. He did not know the precise details, but said fresh supplies were being delivered in about a week or two earlier. This was making a difference for his artillery team as they fought to defend Chasiv Yar from advancing Russian forces. It allows us to do our job, to hold off Russian soldiers, to resist them, and also to destroy them when they attempt counterattacks. Well, yeah, it turns out if you have the artillery and you're an artilleryman, having that is very useful. Russian troops have been trying to push into Chasiv Yar for the past year after seizing the nearby city of Bakhmut. So I want to emphasize that last line because it's taken a year from Bakhmut to Chasiv Yar, which is not that far, and they haven't gotten there yet. And it's been very, very costly. Okay. Special Herzon Cat. At night, there was a reported missile attack on Crimea. As claimed by Russians, ATACMS were used for the strikes on Crimea. Russian Belbek military airfield near Sevastopol is one of the targeted locations. A fire in the airfields was reported as a result of the attacks. No information about the damage on the ground yet. Russian media published footages of ATACMS submunitions claimed from the Belbek airfield. So this was just last night. Here's video of it. I'm not showing the video. It's just a still video of the fire on the territory of the Russian Belbek military airfield, and then a little bit more about it. Russia's claims, their own claims here. Russia claims regarding night strike on Belbek military airfield in Crimea. At night, Ukrainian formations launched a new attack on Crimean airfields. This time, the target was Belbek, at which up to 16 ATACMS Operation Tactical Missiles with cluster warheads were fired. Interesting to watch how the Russians claimed the number of ATACMS missiles increased from 8 in the early morning to 10 to now 16. The sounds of the work of the 31st Air Force and Air Defense Divisions were heard by the population of Crimea and Sevastopol around 2 a.m. Even residents of some name I can't pronounce noted flashes and sounds of explosions in the sky. In total, about 13 missiles were shot down on the approach to Belbek. Unfortunately, we failed to shoot down 1 or 2 missiles. Well, that's just bad math. 13, 14, that's 3. And the results of the hits again became known to the whole world thanks to how the publication of video from a surveillance camera on the internet. How and why this is still possible in the third year of the war has been a long rhetorical question. As we ourselves and our colleagues have noted more than once, until criminal penalties are introduced for the publication of such videos and photos, Ukrainian formations will have no problem assessing the results of their strikes, even without the help of NATO satellites. It's not entirely clear where the missiles were launched from. Previous raids were from the Berislav area, Kherson region, but as a rule, the enemy changes positions to prevent detection, and the ATACMS range of 300 kilometers increases the combat capabilities of Ukrainian armed forces. It is possible that at this time, the launch was carried out from Kherson region. However, some other sources report that missiles flight was recorded from the direction of Snake Island, so the launchers could be located somewhere near Vilkovo on the border with Romania. Okay, so that's the Russian assessment of this. And then finally, we want to look at this. What are the results? Jason J. Smart reported, Russia says, as a result of the Ukrainian attack on Russian-occupied Belbek base, 1 MiG-31 destroyed, 3 Su-27s were damaged, 2 S-300 air defense installations, 11 soldiers eliminated. And then he concluded with this, and I think this is brilliant. We lost 2 years not giving Ukraine ATACMS. For what? Send more now. Okay. All right. Yesterday I talked about this. I talked about how the Czech Republic had been sending 2,700 times the amount of amount of materials, sanctioned dual-purpose would-be sanctioned goods, things that you couldn't send to Russia is being sent to Kyrgyzstan, and it's being sent there, and then from Kyrgyzstan it's sent to Russia. Well, the same trend lines work in Germany, Poland, Czech Republic, Spain, Austria, Italy, and you can see it, right? There's now 13 EU sanctioned packages on Russia, and this is the reality. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has shown a light on how the EU works, and it's bad. The EU doesn't need grand visions of the future. It needs people who make it transparent and accountable here and now. And I think that's right. Okay, last little bit that I want to get into right now. I showed this yesterday. This was at 4 o'clock. What was it? No, before 4 o'clock. It was like 3:40, 3:45 in the afternoon. Jake Broe's fundraiser was at $478,000 and out of 500,000, and right now it is, I'm sure it's broken $716,000 with a new goal set of $800,000. That is absolutely amazing. When he hits $800,000, that he will have put 40 trucks on the battlefield with his communities. Wow, that's really amazing. So that's easily I think the previous record was 180,000, something like that, by Arthur Rahe, who was applauding Jake for having the success that he was having. And then I got this, I was on the Shills the other day, and I was talking to Rick the Ukrainian, who said that what NATO has put out so far has been about 350 trucks. So he will put out, so NATO will now have almost 400 trucks out on the battlefield, and Jake will be responsible for about 10% of that. That's pretty remarkable. So, okay, there we are. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.